By trade and for trade, I am a writer. I think in terms of words and stories. And so for me, all of my garments come from stories. All the runways that I walk on Drag Race in season 10 come from a character and a person, and the garments came out of that. All of that stuff is selected based on it fitting with a person that I want to create on the runway. Usually in drag, you want to nail your message home as hard as possible. So creating a drag body for me is all about exaggeration. I have the biggest ass on a midget queen in this great nation, I believe. I think that's true. And then when I'm, getting paid the good money, I cinch my waist in as small as possible to 20 inches. Adding curves gives your body a sense of movement. Then, of course, the waist is accentuated by the size of the hips and by the size of the tits, and it gives you that big presence. When I think about my style, I remember when I was a little kid going to the library and looking in the card catalog for a book about the future because I wanted to know what it was going to look like. And of course, there are no books with photos of the future yet. And ever since then, I've been stuck on trying to imagine it and obsessed with people who are also trying to imagine it. The Flash Gordon films, Metropolis, that feeds not my fashion, because I'm not into fashion, but the way that I express myself through clothes. There's two histories to my wardrobe. First of all, I learned how to sew, and for a long time, I was making all of my garments myself, reverse engineering clothes that I loved from pictures, working with new materials all the time. If you're not doing that with your garments, you are missing out on a huge experience of drag. Through the process of doing Drag Race, I discovered some incredible designers who understand my vision, and it's like having another self with a better education working while I'm working on other things, and that is a huge blessing. People are worried about Drag Race sort of narrowing the standard of what drag should look like and behave like, and it makes me think of this experience I had in college. I had two musicians that I listened to, and I thought that I loved music because I listened to them all the time. And my roommate was like, "You don't like music. You like those two musicians." I think of that with drag. Like, if you love two queens from Drag Race, you love those two queens from Drag Race, and that's fine. Nobody's forcing you to love all queens. But if you want to say, "Oh, I love drag," then you have to love every single part of it. The bearded queens, the punk queens, the pageant queens, the polished queens. At the very least, you have to be able to walk into a drag bar with an open heart and be prepared to love whatever queen is up there without any standard.